Most discipline advice sounds strong but fails almost everyone. It tells you to push harder and fight yourself daily. Yet disciplined people don't feel like they're fighting. So why does the advice keep lying? If discipline was about motivation, successful people would struggle too. If willpower worked, discipline wouldn't collapse every night. Something doesn't add up in the advice world, and neuroscience quietly explains why. In the next few minutes, you'll see what advice gets wrong, why forcing yourself actually weakens discipline long term, and how real discipline works without emotional battles. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. What most discipline advice promises. Most advice says discipline means pushing through resistance, fighting laziness, forcing action through pain. It praises intensity, grind, and mental toughness. That sounds heroic, but it's biologically flawed. This advice assumes your brain obeys pressure, but the brain avoids repeated discomfort automatically. Push harder today, resistance grows tomorrow. That's why most plans collapse within weeks. The motivation lie. Motivation feels powerful because it spikes dopamine. Dopamine creates urgency, excitement, and emotional drive. But dopamine is unstable and highly context dependent. Sleep, stress, mood, and environment decide its strength. When dopamine drops, motivation disappears instantly. Your brain doesn't feel broken. It feels unrewarded. That's why motivation-based discipline feels loud but fragile. It burns fast, then vanishes. The willpower trap. So advice upgrades to willpower instead. Now you force action despite discomfort. This uses the brain's decision-making center. The prefrontal cortex handles effortful control. Here's the problem nobody mentions. Willpower works like a limited battery. Every decision drains it slowly across the day. By evening, the battery is empty. That's why disciplined mornings become lazy nights. Not because you failed, but because your biology ran out of fuel. Still exhausting, still unstable. Where real discipline actually starts. Real discipline doesn't ask, "What should I do?" It asks, "What does someone like me do?" This activates identity-based neural networks. Actions feel aligned, not forced. At this level, quitting creates mental friction. Your brain prefers consistency over comfort. Stopping feels worse than continuing, but awareness is still required. The scariest level nobody teaches. The final level is neural automation. Discipline stops being conscious effort. Behavior shifts into the brain's automation center. The basal ganglia take control. This system runs habits, like brushing teeth, driving familiar roads without thinking, typing passwords automatically. No motivation needed, no negotiation required. When the cue appears, action fires instantly. Not because you're intense, because your brain is running scripts. That's what elite discipline actually looks like. Why this feels uncomfortable to others. Most humans act based on emotion. They move when inspired and stop when uncomfortable. So emotional neutrality looks unnatural, even cold. You work when tired, you work when bored, you work when sad. No hype, no drama, just execution. The mechanism advice ignores. Every habit follows a simple loop. Cue, action, reward. Most people obsess over the action. Elite discipline engineers the cue. Same time, same place, same trigger. The brain loves predictability. When cues stabilize, resistance drops sharply. Execution becomes automatic. Same desk creates focus mode. Same hour creates work mode. Same routine creates flow. The brain stops asking and starts executing. Emotional immunity. At high discipline levels, emotions still appear. Laziness exists. Fear exists. Doubt exists. But they lose decision-making authority. They become background noise. Neuroscience calls this decoupling. Thoughts are no longer commands. You feel unmotivated and still act. That's the part people find disturbing. Why intensity destroys discipline. Intensity spikes cortisol inside the brain. Cortisol associates habits with stress. The brain learns avoidance automatically. That's why hype leads to burnout. Elite discipline is boring and repeatable. Low emotion, low friction. No emotional spikes means no crashes. Consistency always beats passion. How to build real discipline. Rule 1. Remove choice completely. Never decide if you'll act. Decide only when and where. Choice creates friction. Automation destroys it. Rule 2. Underperform intentionally. Small actions feel safe to the brain. Short sessions repeat easier than heroic efforts. Consistency rewires faster than intensity. Rule 3. Protect the cue, not the mood. Bad day doesn't matter. Same cue still runs. Your brain learns emotions are irrelevant. The final truth. The most disciplined people aren't intense. They're inevitable. They don't rise with motivation. They don't fall with emotion. They show up again and again. until the brain accepts this identity. This is just who we are now, no fight left. Once discipline becomes identity plus automation, there's nothing left to force. The war ends quietly, and the system wins.